Right, so no one has anything perfect. Good students. Huh? Very good students have understood all, so no doubts, nothing. So, um, this year we decided to focus on this particular Dhamma called Visuddhi, which is one of the um, very important teachings that directly related to the practice and the purification. So Visuddhi means purification, which has got the 7 linear steps, starting from purification of a morality, purification of mind, purification of understanding, overcoming doubt, understanding which path to follow, and practicing according to that path, and gaining the wisdom. So these are the 7 Visuddhis. And last week we discussed on why do we need to purify. And that's simply because our mind is polluted by a dust, countless dusts. And these dusts we collected along the way, and we developed along the way. So as a result, we have many, many layers that is covering our mind. So that's why we also know that the practice of a meditation is to peeling these layers one after another until no layers. Right? Now, this dust in Buddhism is called kilesa, defilements. Kilesa, defilements, that defiles the mind. In a basic form, this kilesa, the defilements, there are 3. Basically, there are 3. Number 1 is called lobha, and number 2 called dosa, number 3 called moha. Anyone wants to translate?
Delusion, hatred, or greed.
Yeah, well done. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Now, do you think, is that all the kilesas? Do you think there are more kilesas?
I think the rest is derived from those main 3.
Ah.
There'll be more, but the core will be those 3.
What do you think? So Eros said that these are 3 mains, and then others derived from it. Sprout, huh? Many branches.
The fetters and hindrances. Is that?
That's no.
I didn't hear what you said properly.
The kilesas.
Yeah.
So we have just said there are 3 kilesas. So my question that is that all? Is that all?
Yes, that's enough.
That's enough, huh?
Does 5 aggregates count as kilesas or
No. 5 aggregates are the another factor, not related to the kilesa, but that's the result of the kilesa is a 5 aggregate. Yeah? Now, so
But what about greed, hatred and delusion?
greed,
And greed.
hatred,
And delusion.
and delusion, ignorance,
Uh-huh.
deluding ourselves that this is permanent, this is wonderful. Things that is not, you're thinking that is. So
Well,
that
that's
is
all the negative things there, John. So what about the positive things you have to get rid of?
non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. It's the positive.
So there's 6 then.
So, kilesas, there are, I may not be able to remember all, so another 10 different types of kilesas, so that's called the 10 kilesas. And then, a further explanation, there are 1,500 types of kilesas. 1,500, right? Now these 1,500, it's debatable, and the commentators have debated that it may not be, because it's not available in the scripture, Buddha's teachings itself, but it's just a later explaining, connecting from this and that, and then expanding up to the 1,500 kilesas. But the 10 kilesas that the Buddha mentioned,
So there's 10 main ones.
3 are the like a root. These greed, hatred and delusion are the root, and then the rest others are just like a supporting kilesas. So greed, hatred and delusion, that's the first, the 3. And then it comes with the conceit, the mana.
Ill will, conceit.
Not ill will,
Do
conceit.
they all them come from one of the 3?
Yes, it's sprouted out, but that's something that's beyond or the causing it to be. So the next one is called a conceit, and then ditthi here is the wrong view. Wrong view. In a way that relates to the ignorance or a delusion. Wrong view, conceit and wrong view. And then sloth. Sloth is also a kilesa. Being lazy is kilesa. That we normally like to be lazy. And restlessness is also kilesa. Restlessness. And I forgot to, will come maybe later on. Okay? So these are the kilesas. 10 kilesas. Now these are the kilesas. Now this kilesa is also part of the creation. Part of the creation of ourselves. So it is also known as a kilesa vata, means the cycle of the kilesas, cycle of the defilements. So this cycle of the defilements is the root that causes us to be reborn again and again. Now this is referring to, now we could relate to the paticca-samuppada, the dependent origination. So in dependent origination, it starts from the ignorance, ends with jati, jara, vyadi, maranam. So it starts from avidya, ignorance, Now, where this ignorant or ignorance arises. So, the ignorance of what? Right? So, in that kilesa, that's why we have to look at the number one is the avidya. The ignorance is number one. Number two is the desire, trishna or tanha. And then number three is the upadana. These are the three main causes that keeps us spinning in the samsara. Based on that, then we are performing actions, kamma. Kilesa vata, kamma vata, and then vipaka vata, the resultants, the results that we receive. So, as long as we have in our consciousness of these three things, the ignorance, the desire, and the attachment, then we will perform activities which is normally is the cause to be becoming. So we will act, and that action is conditioning, creating, forming. And that action is driven by our own creation, that our own misunderstanding and our desire. So with that, then what happens? Right? So there arises, there is a vijnana, salayatana, phassa, vedana. Consciousness arises there. And the consciousness is a continuation that I have done this, so I am aware of this. Now there arises consciousness, and with that consciousness, nama rupa arises and salayatana arises. Nama rupa is mind body. With the rising of a mind body, there we have a six senses and six sense base. When six senses comes to contact with the six bases, then again goes back to the creation again. And that creation again is coming out from not knowing what we see, right? And we have a desire to do it, and we have attached on it further. And as a result, we are clouding our mind, putting another layer on our consciousness. So kilesa is just thickened rather than thinning. So thickened. So now this kilesa, now with that, what happens that, and this kilesa itself has got the different layers and different levels of a kilesas now. Some kilesas can be overcome by just being morally practicing morality. You can come out from that. Some is not good enough. You have to take control of your mind and able to stop there. And then some really needs a proper understanding. So number one, when somebody shouted at you, right? And then that moment, ability to not to react straight away. Right? That is called the external influenced kilesas that causes to create further actions. So that is the first one, which is very rough kilesas that we will be facing it now and then, here and there. So that is the reason why in Buddhist practice of meditation, the sila comes, the moral practice comes. If you practice sila, then these will be able to prevent from doing it. From physical body, physical body, and then the verbal action. Yeah? Instantly able to stop there. So that's the first one. By doing so, now we may be able to say, let's say, practice of 5 precepts, the conscious of 5 precepts. Then what happens that suddenly you want to kill something, or suddenly you want to steal something, suddenly you want to speak false something. Straight away, I'm observing it, so I don't want to do it, finish it. So you stop there. Kilesa is not furthering now. Kilesa is there, but not furthering. You're not creating further kilesas. No, not under the influence of the kilesas anymore. So you stop there. So basically you're creating the boundary.
Yeah.
You're creating a boundary for yourself to keep yourself safe. Yeah? Now the second one, which is again I think early on mentioned about the nivaranas, hindrances. This is hidden in our hearts, but in a surface level, not like a deep inner consciousness. Now, in order to come out from that hindrances, then we have to train our mind. When we train our mind, then these hindrances will come out and be able to stop it there. So, we suppressing the hindrances, not letting it to sprout out and then causing a trouble. So that's why that is the practice of concentration meditation. Right? When we practice concentration meditation, we are able to suppress it. So that's these hindrances are again the kilesas, but in a different level. It's hidden, you can't see it. Whenever whenever it happens, then only it sprouts out. Nobody can notice it. It's only you. So that's the second one. And that's an internal base that causes the creation of that. And then the third one is called a latent defilement, which is sleeping in our consciousness. It's a sleeping in our consciousness. And that's the hard one.
Can you, if you uproot them, do they still stay?
No, if you take it out, then it won't stay.
Okay.
But to take it out, we have to start from the beginning. So we have to get rid of our attachment to our desires, our attachment to our what's called dittupadana views. And then we have to come out. Come out from this attachment to certain rites and rituals that we are attached to. That this is the one I wanted to do, and this is the one that I have been practicing. And then further on, it's called attupadana. So that means self-view, attachment to the self-view about certain things. That also has to overcome. And these things can overcome by creating the boundary. So you have created the boundary, so you have to stick with the boundary now. Right? So with that, once you have managed to come out from that, it's not that you can come out straight away, all these 4 attachments, no, at least some degree. When you have come out from these certain degrees, then our mind has got much freedom. Okay, our mind has got much freedom, and then that freedom allows us to understand the mental activities now, and these mental activities and how these are influenced in it. So we will be able to be mindful of that. And with that, having a mindfulness, and we have got the strength to put the brake on. So suppressing all other occasional arising these kilesas. So able to suppress that there. But unfortunately, those which is already lying in our consciousness, to see that, it's like we have taken, we have peeled up all the layers, and then we see this clear sheet, which is again, woven with so many things, so it's so difficult to see through. Same layers now. Yeah. Early on was different layers. Now we're seeing the one fine layer which is woven with so many things. Now we have to take that one after another, one after another.
That's why your perception keeps changing
Yeah.
every time you
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Yeah. Right. And that's called a latent defilements. In Pali called anusaya kilesas, latent defilements. And this latent defilements for us it is not our job.
Can anybody take the 5 precepts?
Yes.
Or is it down to the monk?
No, everybody can take it. So the moment when you take the 5 precepts, again, this practice of a 5 precept, there are different levels. Okay? The first level, you don't have to convince that I'm going to practice these 5 precepts, but you're consciously aware that things, once you have done it, it's not proper to do it. So you stop there without you thinking of a 5 precepts. Instantly you're thinking that this is not proper, so I am not going to do it. So stopping there. So this is the one way of practicing. Right? And another way of practicing is you committing yourself, observing. So abstaining by observing it. Okay. So abstaining by observing requires more effort.
Yes.
Whereas early on, it's just, this is my thing. So maybe doing, one day you can, but the other day you can't. But whereas abstaining by observing is basically you have committed.
Yeah.
You have committed that I'm not going to violate that. So with that, you are there. Now further on, that's the second level. The last one is called a samucheta. So that samucheta is like you have completely stopped these things. So the 5 precepts is completely preserved or observed. And this is only possible when we have attained some level of noblehood. Ability to completely uprooting them. So that's called abstaining by uprooting it from its root.
It's like automatically protected.
Yeah. Right? So there's no need to question on that at all because you have seen everything. So that's why the first level of a noblehood, if you have attained that first level of a noblehood, then that means the latent defilements in a certain levels you have eliminated. And with that elimination, so you don't need to worry about the 5 precepts. You're gonna practice it without you focusing on it. You're not gonna commit that at all. So like that. But to attain that is not that easy. Right? So before going into this anushaya and how to, which we cannot explain completely because we are not enlightened yet. But in the practice of a meditation, there's another level of kilesas arises, which is very subtle level of kilesas. This kilesas is called upakilesas. That's a subtle level of another level of kilesas that arises. And that we can experience in our meditation. Some of you have already experienced that, and then some of you already attached to that too, and then you think that you are somewhere as well. So that's called anusaya kilesas.
Not the upakilesa.
Hmm?
It's not anusaya kilesa. Sorry.
Yeah, upakilesa and anusaya kilesa, there are two things. Eh? So these are the, once we practice meditation, these experiences come. So there are 16 different experiences come. Now the very most common things, common kilesas, I'm going to tell you now. I'm not gonna, I think I don't remember all these 16 kilesas. Number one, I'm sitting meditating. I see the light, wonderful. That is a kilesa. I'm sitting meditating and I felt so much energy here and there. That is a kilesa. That prevents you from improving. Right? And then I've been meditating and I feel so wonderful, calm and peace. That is kilesa.
Don't realise.
Yeah? And then, oh, I've been meditating. I'm joined in. So beautiful experience. That is a kilesa.
So much to learn.
And this is a danger. Yeah? This is a danger of preventing from developing of meditation. So inside.
Sorry, is that like wrong view then?
It's not a wrong view. These are just the bypass, and then we attach to this thing. And we just perceive it as something I'm attaining. You're attached. You have developed some attachment on it.
Yeah.
So, right? And then, oh, wonderful. Oh. There are 16. So next week I will write it down, all 16, and then we'll explain to you. 16 of them.
Yeah, but once you've uprooted all 16 of them, then
No, it's just like preventing you going further once you understand. I think
That's why you may have heard me saying, oh, that's a wonderful, but do not attach to it. Move on. Notice that I have experienced it, but it's okay. And then next time when you meditate, do not think about that one. But normally what happens? Ajahn, today my meditation is not good.
I didn't get the light.
I didn't get the light. My mind wasn't completely shut down. My mind wasn't concentrated everywhere. What's happening, Ajahn? See, you see the result of attachment here,
Yes.
right? Your previous experience, and then you want to have it again. So there is a desire.
Yeah.
Yeah? Early on I mentioned kilesa vata, the cycle of the defilements. The first thing is ignorance of what you are experiencing and not knowing that. As a result, you have a desire. And because of that desire, you are attached to that experience, attachment, holding on to it, craving. As a result, it's been past yesterday and you come back today and meditating, hoping to get that again.
So you just note it and let it go.
Yes.
Or you reflect it as like tilakshana.
Yeah.
Kind of
Changes.
changes.
Yeah? So that's why whenever we experience that one, beautiful, good, but not attached to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say, what you have seen is true, but not reality.
Yeah.
So not going back to search for that again. If you go back to search for that again and you attain that, what happens? It develops a self-created concept that this is the reality.
Yeah.
I have experienced it. This is the truth. And you hold on to that truth. And not only keeping to yourself, you're going to speak to others that you must attain that. And then if somebody is saying, oh, my mind is not, oh, you must be in there.
Yeah, but then how's that, when you're concentrating on crystals, you're desiring that crystal?
It doesn't work like that.
Mm.
It doesn't, because what happens is that the crystal ball will appear in its own time, in its own way. And what happens is that we're imagining the crystal ball, that, like, obviously the first time we done the meditation on the crystals, I couldn't actually visualize it properly. However, the second night when we started to visualize it, I seen the crystal ball and it started to glow, the crystal ball.
Mm.
And however, that if you look at the facial movements as well with the face, when you've got something that you're not used to, a new technique that you're not used to doing, then it's not for you to put the crystal ball there, is it, Prajan?
Mm.
The crystal ball will arrive in its own time, in its own way. So the technique's there to obviously be practiced, and then once you practice the technique over time, you'll become better at the technique. And what do you think about that, Prajan?
So, that's an initial practice that we are doing. So in the initial practice, we have to have an object. Yeah? Without an object, we don't have a mind. And mind won't be there. So as a result, we have to have some object to think about it. And so that is how, this is one of the techniques that we think of that crystal. And thinking of the crystal doesn't mean that it will appear straight away as
Yeah,
Paul.
but you're desiring it.
That's not the desire, that's a different. It's just a intentionally created object to let the mind engage with. It's like the breath. Breath is also one object that we have intentionally created an object. The abdominal rising, falling, we intentionally created an object to let the mind engage with rather than where to engage. Right? So with that, and then again, even the breath in our nose or in our belly, it won't arise straight away. It takes time. And then as mind settles, because of consciously we are trying to be aware of the breath, gradually the breath appears. And we see it clearly, similar to the crystal too. Although the practice is there, but it's not that it will appear straight away. It takes time. And that time is basically need the settling of the mind. All the distractions will go, and there is intention to focus on that. Then that time, mind beginnings to see that object. Okay? Once you have seen the object, then the work begins.
But then you don't get attached to it, obviously, if you see the object.
Well, that's another level. But initially, you are still attached to it. As an attachment, not as like strongly holding it, but it's just like an object that you're using it. It's like a something that you are, let's say, like a car, a vehicle that you're using to reach from one place to another place, like that. And eventually, even like in crystal, like a meditation, once we have reached the 7 stages, and then with that, the mind settles on the crystal. With that, the settlement of the crystal, then the verbalizations will disappear, and then it's just knowing there. Your mind is just settled there, and that's the starting of the another stage of the practice. Right? So, like that. Right? So, I will stop here with the 16 different levels of kilesas that normally arises, and that's the obstacles for the development of the wisdom. Right? And with this, now let's do the short loving kindness meditation to finish off. Right? Sitting in a comfortable position. Relax yourself. And spend a few moments on today's reflection, the kilesas, the defilements. Now we'll practice loving kindness meditation. So bring your attention to observe the sensations in your body. And into your hands. Feel the sensations in your hands. And bring that attention to your heart. Feeling the beating heart. And as you feel the beating heart, generating loving kindness and compassion to yourself. And mentally you may recite, I am well, I am happy, I am peaceful. And experiencing happiness, being well and peaceful.